I got a telephone call early in the morning, and he said, can you go? And I said, sure, of course. Oh my God. I called a friend who's a pilot. He had a single engine plane, and we flew down low over the Dyke Bridge, and I saw the car and the commotion down there and everything, and I thought, oh my God, there goes Ted's presidency right there.
It was an early summer morning in 1969. Fishermen on Chappaquiddick, a small island off Martha's Vineyard, spotted a black Oldsmobile in the water. The local police chief was first on the scene.
When I got there, I saw a car in the water upside down. And I don't know why I did this, but I went to the cottage, which was right next door, and I asked the lady, you wouldn't happen to have a bathing suit, would you?
Chief Arena swam out to the car, but the tide was too strong for an underwater search. He sat on top of the car while the license plate was called into the station. It came back as registered to Senator Edward M. Kennedy.
Sitting on the car, I thought that inner feeling, and you can describe it whatever you want, I'm convinced there's somebody in there.
A scuba diver arrived on the scene, dove down, and saw a body floating in the vehicle.
He had a rope, and he said, when you feel a tug, you pull, and I'm coming up. So next thing you know, up he comes with this blonde girl, young lady. And as I looked at her, I was trying to figure out which Kennedy is she.
The woman was 28-year-old Mary Jo Kopechne. She was part of a devoted group of campaign workers who had helped Bobby Kennedy in his presidential bid the previous year.
There was 8 or 9 of them, all women, and they were the boiler room girls, and Mary Jo was one of them. They were tough and strong and loyal, and they worked so hard.
Each woman was responsible for winning over delegates, working the phones to secure support for Kennedy.
Yes, I got another delegate. Yes, I got a positive in Iowa. So everybody would cheer and then go right back to work again. It was exciting stuff.
When Bobby Kennedy was assassinated, the Boiler Room girls took it hard. Mary Jo told a friend she was unable to return to Capitol Hill because she felt Bobby's presence everywhere. In the year that followed, the women had reunion parties, taking comfort in one another. One of those parties brought Mary Jo to Chappaquiddick Island in 1969.
Do I know about partying with those people? Do I know about partying with those people? Because I was head dog of the Boiler Room. But I didn't go. But I really wanted to go.
On a hot July night, the 6 young women gathered for a party in a rented cottage. 6 men were there, including Ted Kennedy. According to the senator, he and Mary Jo left the cottage together sometime after 11 p.m. Kennedy later said he was tired and that she wasn't feeling well, and they had planned to catch the ferry and return to their hotel rooms. Driving down a paved road that curved left to the ferry dock, the black Oldsmobile made a sharp right turn onto a dirt road. It led across a bridge to a beach where Kennedy had gone swimming earlier that day. While crossing the bridge, the senator's car jumped the curb, hit the water, and sank. Kennedy managed to escape the car. He later said he dove repeatedly to save Mary Jo before giving up and returning to the party on foot. According to Kennedy, he returned to the scene with 2 friends, but again, the tide was too strong for a rescue. The group then drove to the ferry dock, but it was closed for the night. "You take care of the girls, I'll take care of the accident," he said. With that, Kennedy dove into the water and swam across the channel to Edgartown. Neglecting to report the accident, he returned to his hotel room for the night. Steve Ewing, deckhand on the Chappaquiddick ferry, remembers the next morning.
He got on the boat, brought him to Chappie with these 2 other guys. He seemed sullen. You could tell something had happened. There's a little ferry shack right there, and they stayed there about a half an hour and talked. Got back on the boat, went back to Edgartown. And this is before Kennedy, turns out, had reported the accident to the Edgartown police.
Around 9:30 a.m., some 10 hours after the accident, the senator got off the ferry, hurrying past a photographer, and walked into the police station. Chief Arena returned to the station from the scene and asked the senator for a statement. Kennedy sat privately with his lawyer and wrote a brief account of the accident, which made no mention of the party. No follow-up questions were asked. 2 hours later, Kennedy was off island.
I arranged to meet them up at the airport, and they get in my plane and we took off. Went over to Hyannis. Our only thing was to get him away where he could control the media somewhat.
While Kennedy was sequestered with advisors at his family compound, the press descended on the island and its police chief.
There was a question, why didn't you give him a breathalyzer? Why didn't they give him a breathalyzer? He's standing in front of me, he's clear-eyed, bushy-tailed, and if he rang .80, what does that prove? 8 hours after the accident happened.
By the time Chief Arena found out there had been a party, all the boiler room girls had left the island without being questioned by police. The body of Mary Jo Chappaquiddick was returned to her parents in Pennsylvania for burial, and no autopsy was ever performed.
I've heard every kind of crazy, loony theory about this over the years. Snatched it away before the autopsy, so we don't know if she was pregnant. What I'm saying is, it wasn't like there's a bunch of nuns and priests, but it wasn't an orgy.
A week later, Kennedy arrived at the Edgartown courthouse with his pregnant wife, Joan. In a 10-minute trial, he was charged with a misdemeanor, leaving the scene of an accident. He pleaded guilty, and the judge gave him a 2-month suspended sentence. Back in Hyannisport that night, after a week of silence, Kennedy made a speech in a live television broadcast trying to explain his actions after the accident.
I made immediate and repeated efforts to save Mary Jo by diving into the strong and murky current. I regard as indefensible the fact that I did not report the accident to the police immediately.
It was a very compelling statement. He opened up, he showed his pain, he showed his sadness as to what had happened. But it left more questions than it answered.
Why go back to the hotel? Why not at least, even if you attempted to dive and you had no luck, why give up and just don't call the police or anything?
All kinds of scrambled thoughts, all of them confused, some of them irrational, including such questions as whether some awful curse did actually hang over all the Kennedys.
That's how the story was cast, that another tragedy strikes this Kennedy family. But quickly, as the questions began to mount, we saw there was something more than a tragedy. It was a mystery, still unsolved.